Hey guys, what is up? It is the Fast Break Report here, bringing you guys another vlog. So, I want to talk about the Indiana Pacers and just what I think about the team 20 games in. There's a lot of glaring issues, and I'm beginning to become very worried about this team, that it is plateaued, meaning like this is as good as it's going to get. Last season we made this really huge trade for Pascal Siakam. I don't know why I constantly see people seeing like, oh, well, bring back Bruce Brown. Bruce Brown is not what he used to be. Okay, there's a reason we traded him. I've seen people bring back Buddy Hield, bring back this person, bring back that person. The problem is bringing back any of these people is not going to fix our problems. All right, I'm just going to call it. Everybody keeps saying like, oh, well, we need to bring back Buddy Hield. We need to bring back Bruce Brown. We need to do this. We need to do that. The problem with this team is defense. It has been, and it always will be, defense until a change is made. Offensively, the team has not even looked good. We lost the last game of our home stretch, and we play the next 4 games at away. We don't have a home game for another 5 games or another 4 games. And when you lose to the Pistons 130-106, my problem with this whole thing is the idea that we have 2 guys on our team who are making max money, okay, in Pascal Siakam and Tyrese Halliburton. And 2 teams that are below us and should be below us, but I don't think will be below us for very long, are the Charlotte Hornets and the Detroit Pistons. Cade Cunningham has arrived, okay, regardless of what you think about him. Jaden Ivey has gotten a lot better since, Monty Williams got fired. Jaden Ivey's actually getting opportunity and is starting to look like the player that they drafted in the top 10, okay? Tobias Harris was very good last night. The worst player on the Detroit Pistons, well, there was 2 of them that shot bad from 3, was Tim Hardaway Jr. and Asar Thompson. And Asar Thompson isn't really known for shooting threes. Cade Cunningham shot 66%. Jaden Ivey shot 37%. Tobias Harris shot 40%. Malik Beasley shot 5 of 9 at 55%. Fontecchio only shot 1, but he made the one that he shot. This team has so many glaring issues that I really don't know how they fix them. I do think the first thing that needs to happen, though, is some type of coaching change. Whether it is Rick Carlisle or some of his assistants, okay, something has to change. Because it's kind of concerning to me that teams like the Hornets and the Pistons play defense better than we do, and they're all young guys, right? Last night, Jalen Duren outplayed Miles Turner. Jalen Duren finished the game with 14 points, 12 rebounds, and 4 blocks. Miles Turner finished his game, okay, with 9 points, 1 block, and 10 rebounds. And Miles did not play good. Miles shot 37% from the field, 33% from 3. If you want my honest opinion on Miles Turner, I have a feeling we're going to be trading him at the deadline for either draft picks or something. Obi Toppin has been all offense and no defense all season. Obi Toppin is actually pretty much doing worse across the board than he did last year. Shooting 52% from the field, which is worse than last year. 31% from 3 is worse compared to his 40% from 3 last year. 77%. He's shooting better from the free throw line at 88% compared to his 77% from last year. But while the numbers are starkly almost the same, the percentages are significantly worse. Jarris Walker, I'm not going to get too crazy on Jarris Walker because Jarris Walker spent most of his season last year in the G League, but Jarris Walker has not looked good either. Jarris Walker is a guy who, granted, last night looked good. He had 5 steals. But Jarris Walker has been, whereas last year he seemed to be all offense and no defense, this year he seems to be all defense and no offense. And while I'm not ready to give up on Jarris Walker because this is, to me, I'm considering this his rookie year because he's actually playing in the NBA. He's played 20 games in the NBA this season, and I don't expect him to just, get thrown into it and adapt. We saw what he did in the G League. He is clearly leaps and bounds better than a G League player. But it's just the idea. Jarace Walker is a guy that I consider to be a jack of all trades and a master of none. That's what I thought about him in the draft. That's what I think about him now. And the most I think Jarace Walker is ever going to be is a 6'8", 3-and-D guy. And while that is not the end of the world, maybe he does develop to become something better. Jarace Walker, I think, does not fit the timeline of this team. I'm just going to call it what it is. I just don't think that's going to happen. Or I just don't think that's the case. I think Jarace Walker is a young guy on a team that just went to the Eastern Conference Finals last year. And now, obviously, expectations have been reset a little bit. I mean, Jarace Walker is shooting 38% from 3 this year, which isn't bad, but he's shooting 41% from the field. Jarace Walker has had a lot of really boneheaded plays, which you're going to get. Like I said, this is his first year that he's really getting significant NBA play time. It's not G League time. This is prime time, so to speak. So I'm not super mad at Jarace Walker for not playing well. My problem with this team is it feels like it's on a track to nowhere. That's my problem with it. The offense has not been as good as last year. I get that we have a bunch of injuries. We're missing Wiseman. We're missing Isaiah Jackson. Jarace Walker and Obi Toppin are simply just not playing well. We're missing Andrew Nembhard. We're missing Aaron Nesmith, right? Like, we're missing 2 of our key pieces, and one of them is our best defender. The problem is, though, defense cannot, and should not rely on one player. Okay, TJ McConnell's been as good as they come as far as consistency goes. Pascal Siakam has been very, very good. Pascal Siakam has easily been the best player on this team this season, regardless of what you think about him or how he fits the timeline or what have you. Okay, Pascal Siakam has consistently been the best player on this team this year. Quentin Jackson, a guy that I really liked during Summer League, is showing out. Okay, and in the preseason. He's a guy that I liked, in preseason. A lot of people, even when I went on Tony East's, Locked On Pacers thing, a guy that I said to look out for was Quentin Jackson, and Quentin Jackson is providing, okay? My problem is this team needs to get significantly better in multiple areas if it's going to be a playoff team or or anything more than a fringe play-in team. And this is the time to go all in. I know I've said that time and time again, but the Knicks, comparing us to Charlotte, right? Charlotte played the New York Knicks last night without LaMelo Ball and without Miles Bridges and lost by 1 point, okay? The Charlotte Hornets played team defense. The Detroit Pistons played team defense. The Houston Rockets played team defense. All these young teams that are on the come-up all play defense. The Pacers are that young team that, yes, wants to get out and run, but we're like the East Coast Sacramento Kings, okay? We can put a lot of points on the board, but we couldn't play defense if our life depended on it. And unfortunately, at this point, even the offense is speculative. And I really don't want to overreact, but we're at a point now where we know what this team is. Okay, once you get to the 20-game mark, you know what your team is. And this team is a fringe play-in team. By the time the season's over, okay, I at the very least expect Detroit to be ahead of us. I think Detroit will be ahead of us. Houston is already ahead of us. Charlotte has a little bit of work to do, but next year, I wouldn't be surprised if they're ahead of us. I really wouldn't be surprised if there's a big trade at the deadline, including guys like Jarace Walker, Obi Toppin, and Miles Turner. Like a 3-package deal, front court players for something significant. I don't know what that something of significance is, but this team needs to get better at defense. It needs to get better at rebounding. It needs to get better at defending the 3-point shot. Specifically, I don't know what they can do. I don't know if you want to fire Rick Carlisle, but I don't think that's going to... I don't think that's the full answer to our problems as much as I'm 50-50 on that. I don't think a team is this bad at defense unless you're not practicing defense or not preaching defense in practice. That's the only thing I can think of. You look at these young teams like the Rockets, the Hornets, and the Pistons. These are all teams that have coaches that are emphasizing defense. Even Orlando is good at defense. And if you're the Pacers, you're not going to get very far in the playoffs if this is what I can expect out of the offense and it's what I can expect out of the defense. It's just not. So I just feel like the team's in a really weird spot where I don't want to give up on Jarris Walker. I like Obi Toppin. I think he fits what we're trying to do, but unless he gets better at defense, he is a guy that I could see getting traded. And Miles Turner, Miles Turner's okay. He's still a good player, but is he what he used to be defensively? No. And unfortunately, even what he was defensively a couple years ago really wasn't something I was overly impressed with. I say this year after year that I see way too many centers come in the league that get drafted out of college that in their second or third year in the league look better than Miles Turner after Miles Turner's been in the league for, going on 10 years now? It's just, this team is a mess. And unfortunately, I feel like last year was the peak. Okay? I feel like last year was the peak. We made it to the Eastern Conference Finals. But if you want to keep that fire alive, I feel like a lot of roster changes need to be made. Not only and just in your rotations and your players, but in your coaching staff. Like, I don't know who's controlling defense for the Pacers, but it feels like this is something, like defense is something that is simply not being preached. Rick Carlisle time and time again in these press conferences is like, we're going to look at the film and see what we have to change. What more can we do? How about just start preaching fucking defense? And honestly, if guys are not going to play it, start fucking trading them. That's all I can say. That's all I can say for this team, because I know that, like, the team has the ability to be very good, and, you're not going to trade Tyrese Halliburton. You can't. Sorry, there's no way for you to trade Tyrese Halliburton unless, like, there's some crazy off-the-wall trade deal. And honestly, even if you wanted to trade Tyrese Halliburton, which I don't, I believe in Tyrese Halliburton, but it's just the idea, like, even if you wanted to trade Tyrese Halliburton, what you get back is not going to be what you give up. Okay, like when you get star players like that, guys like Tyrese Halliburton and Damian Lillard and et cetera, guys like that, when you start getting into that upper echelon tier of not even 1A guys, but 1B guys almost, even those are guys that you're usually 9 times out of 10 not going to give back you're not going to get back what you give up. So it's just, the team needs to emphasize defense, and I don't know if it's like you keep this group of players and swap out the coach, and that's not usually something teams like to do in the middle of the season. But I feel like if this team does not play better, okay, in the next, month or so, right, there's going to be big changes made. I feel like that's coming. This next month is very important. I keep saying this. If this team is not a 500 basketball team by the trade deadline, Miles Turner is probably getting traded. And honestly, you know what? If I'm being honest, I think the team kind of needs a bit of a soft reset. Not anything drastic, obviously, because the Pacers never do that. The Pacers are a never tank team. They're a team that always goes all in, or not even goes all in, but they're a team that at least tries to make the playoffs, which I fucking hate because it's like the epitome of mediocrity. It's like, we have too much pride to tank, but we're also not shitty and like, we're also not like good enough to win an NBA championship. Like, they're stuck in the fucking middle, and that's what you get. That's what you get when you never tank. That's what you get when you never go after a high draft pick, right? You become this team where you're not good enough to win a championship, but you're also not bad enough to be horrible. And while I get that the NBA frowns upon tanking, right? Cooper Flagg is a guy that I'm very high on, okay? Cooper Flagg's a guy I'm looking at, and I'm like, yeah, okay, like he's got what it takes. And even with, like, I just feel like Miles Turner is not good enough. Obi Toppin, while he's a good bench player, doesn't play defense well enough. Jarris Walker, I don't really know what he's ever going to be, to be honest with you. He strikes me as like a 3-and-D forward, 6'8", 3-and-D forward, which is good, but isn't great and isn't what we need right now. That's the problem with Jarris Walker, is he's not what we need right now. Andrew Nembhard, and like, I get it, we're banged up and we have excuses for all these things, but this is a team that I expect to just be better than it is now. Johnny Furphy is a guy that I like. Furphy looks like he's going to be very good. Quentin Jackson looks like he's going to be very good. But I have a feeling like this team is gonna, like, at this point, it is what it is, and if you want it to get better, you might have to trade a piece that you don't want to trade. If you want to land a Brandon Ingram, if you want to land, I don't know, somebody better than Miles Turner, you're gonna have to give up Jarris Walker and Obi Toppin, okay? Aaron Nesmith at this point, based on what I've seen on defense, should be untouchable at this point, unless you're getting some astronomically crazy good defender back for him if you trade him, right? That's the problem with this team. This team sucks at defense. The offense is still sporadic. I still don't understand why we don't run the screen and roll or screen and pop with Pascal Siakam. Why are we doing it with Miles Turner it's head scratching to me. But there's a lot of problems. And you could point fingers all you want all day, but the whole thing in itself sucks. Okay, the coaching is terrible. The rotations are not great. I hate Tyrese Halliburton playing the two. I'm just gonna say that now. Like, I don't think he should have any business playing the 2-guard spot. I understand we're undermanned at the moment, and you might have to have him do that, but this team needs to make a trade for somebody. And you know what's something funny? As much as I've been saying, like, the Pacers should trade for Tari Eason from the Houston Rockets last year, Tari Eason's officially on the untouchables list for the Houston Rockets. So now what do you have left is like Dorian Finney-Smith, right? Alex Caruso is not going anywhere from the Oklahoma City Thunder. Isaiah Hartenstein's not going anywhere. And that's the thing. Like, if you want to be a playoff team and make a deep run, you have to have depth, which we have. We have depth, but the problem is we don't have any size. We don't have any rebounding. We don't play defense. We don't defend the three-point shot well. And when you don't do those things well and your offense still sucks, or is, we'll call it mid, okay, you're not going to be a good basketball team. You're just not. You have to be good at something. You can't be a team that's like 20th in offense, or bottom 15 in offense, and bottom of the league in defensive. For a team, you can't be bad at both. And we saw that last year in the playoffs. Okay, you can't be a bad offensive team and a bad defensive team, because at that point you're just a bad team. And at least last year, the Pacers were a historic offense. This year, they look like a shell of their former selves. So I don't know what the answer is to this. And I'm sure Kevin Pritchard and Chad Buchanan are trying to figure out what the hell the problem is. And I understand they might not want to get rid of Rick Carlisle, but this season is going to be a significant step back for this team. And I understand that. I expected that, and so did everyone else. But the problem is, I think a lot of casual fans expected us to, or like average fans, expected us to go back to the Eastern Conference Finals. And that's not going to happen. Okay, I hate to break it to you, but that's not going to happen. Yeah, we get these nice feel-good wins against Dallas and against Milwaukee and against Boston, right? But that's one game. That's the one thing I keep we beat Milwaukee 3 out of 4 times in the regular season last year. We beat Boston 3 out of 4 times in the regular season last year. Listen, man, preparing for one game or 3 games or 4 games out of an 82-game season is a whole hell of a lot different than planning for a 7-game series against an opponent in a playoff series, of all things, okay? That gives you time to adjust. You get time to strategize, okay? That's why I tell people you can't judge playoffs based on what we did in the regular season. You can't judge 1 win or 3 wins out of 4 against Boston off of, maybe they're coming off a back-to-back, a player is injured, or something happens, okay? Somebody's not playing, somebody's suspended, just whatever, somebody's playing hurt, or somebody's playing with an illness. You cannot compare regular season wins to playoff wins, or a playoff series. You can't use a regular season record to determine a playoff outing. Okay, yeah, you can look at it and be positive about it. Okay, we did some good things against them in the regular season. Let's see if it works. But when you have 7 games to adjust, a lot of that shit goes out the window. So, I don't know, man. I don't know what the Pacers are going to do. But at this point, this is what this team is. This is like a sub-500 basketball team. We'll finish the season probably 42-40 if we're lucky. And, the aspirations of being a 50-win team don't look that great at the moment. And I do feel like Kevin Pritchard and Chad Buchanan are going to pull the strings and probably trade some guys that you guys don't want traded in order to try and put something successful together or something that gets us back into play. Because you got to understand, man, also, it's not just the head coach's assets on the line if this team doesn't make it to the playoffs, okay? Chad Buchanan and Kevin Pritchard extended all these guys. They extended Obi Toppin. They extended Andrew Nembhard. They extended T.J. McConnell, right? Their asses are on the line just as much as Rick Carlisle's and whoever else is on our team not doing their job the way that we expect them to or anticipate them to. So, it's a mess. I'm gonna call it what it is. The Pacers are a fucking mess, and come that trade deadline, dog. If shit doesn't get better in the next month here, okay, they're gonna start cleaning house. They're gonna start cleaning up that mess. Kevin Pritchard is not going to. I have a feeling he's not gonna screw around. Okay, once Miles, becomes a guy that we're probably most likely going to trade at this point. I wouldn't be shocked if we trade like Jarris Walker and Miles Turner for a guy like DeAndre Ayton or something like that. Just to put some size in the center and to give us like a better rebounding presence. I said this the other night in the Discord. I remember I actually watched the Portland game against Indiana, and DeAndre Ayton is playing in a situation which I don't think he wants to be in, but it's crazy to me how good he is when he's a guy that looks like he doesn't even give a fuck and can put up a double-double, right? Like, he is a guy that, I remember watching the first quarter of that game, right? I was like, dude, DeAndre Ayton's not even trying to get rebounds. Like, he's just, I get it. If he was in Indiana, he'd have to run and do all this other stuff, and I understand that. But, for me, I watched DeAndre Ayton play, and I'm like, dude, this guy is so good, and it looks like he's not even trying, okay? And sure enough, he got a double-double against us, right? I just feel like, and not only that, but he's younger than Miles Turner. So I don't even think it's by much either. But it's just the idea, I have a feeling changes are coming, and I feel like they're going to be coming within the next month. Jarris Walker, while he is a promising young player, I don't think he's going to be as good as fans think he is, or expected him to be. Like I said, he's a jack of all trades, master of none, and I feel like some other team, maybe Brooklyn's cleaning house. Nick Claxton's available. Cam Thomas, they're everybody on their fucking roster is available, even Cam Thomas. So, Brooklyn might look at Jarris Walker and go, okay, Jarris Walker's something I could maybe work with. What do you got for me? And maybe we land Dorian Finney-Smith, or maybe we land a Nick Claxton or something like that. I don't know. But all I know is, if I'm a betting man, changes are coming. And I think one of the first guys that, if I had to put them in order of guys to be out the door, Obi Toppin and Jarris Walker are at the top of that list. Those are guys that I look at and I go, yeah, they're probably, if we get a good enough trade offer, they're probably gone. Miles Turner is a guy that's probably gone. I don't know what the trade market looks like for Miles Turner, but unless they turn stuff around this next month, Miles Turner's probably gone too. And if you trade Miles Turner, you have to get a center. So, and on top of it too, that really limits who you can trade with. Who's going to want Miles Turner? Probably everybody. What are they going to offer us? Probably not much, because we're going to lose him anyway. So that's the problem as well. So Kevin Pritchard and Chad Buchanan have to try to come up with some type of, finesse job like they did last year with Pascal Siakam. And like they did with, I don't know. I don't know if the Tyrese Halliburton trade was a finesse job, but it was a trade that I think the team needed. Kevin Pritchard, I still think that's a good trade, regardless of what people think of Buddy Hield now that he's in Golden State. I still think that was a franchise-altering move for us, and it worked. It got us to the playoffs. It got us to the Eastern Conference Finals. So Regardless of what people think of those things, I think Kevin Pritchard and Chad Buchanan are going to get in the lab. I think they're going to take a look around the league, see what guys are maybe riding the bench, not get like I was gonna like Cam Whitmore. Cam Whitmore is a guy who's sitting the bench in Houston, and I got a guy I work with who's a Houston Rockets fan, the only Houston Rockets fan, and he was telling me like Cam Whitmore is a guy that they'd probably be willing to come off of. I don't know what people think of Cam Whitmore, but he's a guy that, from what I've seen in Houston, is a guy who can play defense. He can shoot. He's athletic. I think he has a lot of room to grow, but at the same time, I'm just like, even if we trade for him and we don't emphasize defense, what does that matter, right? If he's not naturally gifted on defense. And that's the one good thing Jarris Walker has going for him, is the idea that he's kind of naturally gifted on both sides of the floor. It's just a matter of like ironing that out. But it's not looking good. Just call it what it is. The Pacers are a mess, and it's gonna get cleaned up. Just to let you know, I really don't think this team is going to just tank for Cooper Flag, or sandbag for Flag is the hashtag that I've been using. I don't think that's going to happen. I don't think we're a bad enough team to get Cooper Flag, and I also feel like we're too prideful to just trade away all our good players. And like honestly, even if we did, right, like there's no way to get rid of Siakam and Halliburton, and even if you did get rid of Siakam, you'd have to go after a big name like Giannis or something. Like, no matter how you paint this picture, right, we're not a good enough team to be a serious playoff threat, but we're also not bad enough to be completely horrendous. So you get what you get this year unless some significant trades are made. So tell me what you guys think about this down below in the comment section below. A like helps me out. Subscribe if you guys want to see more on the Fast Break Report. I'm out of this motherfucker. Peace, guys.